7 p.m. on the 24th of February, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lansing City Council to order and ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Councilmember Betts. Here. Councilmember Dunbar. Here. Councilmember Garza. Here. Councilmember Hussein. Here. Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Spatafor.
Present.
Councilmember Spitzley. Here. Councilmember Wood. Here. There are 8 members present, a quorum.
Quorum is present. Is there any, do the council members wish to honor anyone during our moment of meditation? Seeing none, please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of meditation.
You have for your approval the printed council proceedings of February 10th.
Vice President Hussein.
I would move the printed council proceedings, of February 10th, 2020 as presented.
The minutes have been, or the motion has been made. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
And we are to the order of comments by council members and the city clerk.
Yes, so I will first recognize myself, so we do not forget to do that this evening. I'm going to give you all the proposed budget schedule for this year. This is a draft schedule. It's subject to change if things warrant a change. But as of now, as per charter, the mayor will present his budget on the 23rd of March at our city council meeting. On the 13th of April, we'll have a committee of the whole meeting to go through a very specific, detailed budget presentation. Also, we will have a CDBG budget presentation, and at those evenings, we will set the public hearings for the CDBG budget and the fiscal year 2021 budget. Again, at the 13th, in our council meeting, we will set the public hearing for CDBG budget for April 27th, 2020. And we will set the public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 budget for the city for May 4th, 2020. On April 27th, we will continue our detailed budget presentation. At this time, the Chief Financial Officer, CSO, and the Budget Director will present answers to the questions that were asked on the 13th, and then this will be an opportunity for questions to continue. On April 27th, that evening at the council meeting, we'll see the CDBG budget presentation. Then on April 28th, we're going to do something a little differently this year. We're going to going to a neighborhood summit at Eastern High School. We're going to have a committee of the whole meeting to coincide with the budget summit that the administration is doing to attempt to draw more folks in and to encourage more public participation in the budget process. That'll be at 5:30 p.m. at Eastern High School. Mark your calendars. Carol, I think that's an RSL night, so you'll have to double check that one. May 4th, we're going to continue our detailed budget presentation on the committee of the whole schedule, and then at the city council meeting, we'll hold our formal budget hearing. On the 11th of May, we will, at the committee of the whole meeting, we will review the budget one last time, budget policies, and then a budget wrap-up, followed by the 18th at COW will be the adoption of the city budget, and then at city of council meeting will be the adoption of the city budget and the CDBG budget. As I said, this is current as 2/24/20, subject to change should the need arise. We also have different presentations along the way, some of which you all have asked for. I have asked specifically that all department heads be available for May 4th for specific questions on budgets and to come in and talk about programs. But we will, as of now, not be doing a department director by department director presentation on the programs, but rather drilling down into the budget itself. So that is the proposed schedule. I will pass this out to you all, and this will be made available on the website as well. Councilwoman Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So do we just then send you an email if we want a specific department? How's that going to work?
You can either during our presentations we can talk about it, or send an email. But once we get everything, once we start to go through all the questions, we will. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. This is a little off script, but I like to recognize and shout out Daniel Arnold, being an underground reporter that he does. I follow him on Facebook. Can I put your Facebook out there?
Yeah.
His Facebook is Guy Smiley. Every day, just about, he goes somewhere and does something, and he advocates so hard for our vulnerable and homeless communities. And I just want to appreciate him, and maybe he'll get more followers. Guy Smiley on Facebook. If you want to know what's going on, he's the man. Follow him.
Thank you. Other council member comments? Councilmember Betts.
As a reminder, the 7th of March is going to be our third and most lively People's Assembly. There will be donuts and coffee. Please come. I do not want to eat all the extra donuts. It is at the Rio Town Depot on South Washington Ave. Thank you.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you. Tomorrow evening is the Rejuvenating South Lansing meeting at 6:30 at Wise Road, the Southside Community Center. The topics that will be discussed are the census, the importance of being involved in the census. The other is age-friendly, as some of you might have been involved in that project with AARP in the city of Lansing. We're going to be discussing some of the goals and some of the projects that are listed in the report, and we hope people will turn out. Again, that's at 6:30. And that is at the Wise Road Southside Community Center, and that is in the Sandy Allen Room. Thank you.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do want to give a shout out to my church member, Veronica Wilkerson Johnson. She's retiring from that other university, Mayor Shore, the University of Michigan, in the Office of Vice President for Government Relations. She's going to be retiring, so she's going to have a couple celebrations this week, but I wish her well and Godspeed, and I'm so proud of her, and I just wanted to kind of give her a shout out. So Veronica, if you're listening, congratulations, and I'll see you Wednesday and Saturday.
Thank you. Any, Councilmember Hussein?
Just a few announcements. The first is that the Lansing Eaton Neighborhood Organization, they will be having their monthly meeting next Thursday, which is March 5th at 6:30 p.m. All neighborhood meetings are at Wood Creek Achievement Center, which is at 4000 Wood Creek Lane. This group is on fire. They are fundraising, they're pulling down grants, they're erecting new neighborhood signs, they're engaging in neighborhood cleanups. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to serve witness to some of the work that they have been engaging in over the last couple of years. If you are a resident or a business owner north of Jolly, west of Waverly, all the way up to Grand River, you're encouraged to attend. The second announcement is that the Southwest Action Group's monthly meeting will be Thursday, March 12th at 6 p.m. All meetings are at the Southside Community Coalition. That's at 2101 West Holmes. So all residents and business owners of Southwest Lansing are certainly invited. Again, another group that is growing and really kind of spearheading a number of initiatives to try to move the commercial district forward at Pleasant Grove and Holmes. And again, it's been just an incredible kind of opportunity to watch them work. They are doing really, really fantastic work. And then lastly, we will have our third ward constituent contact meeting on March 14th, 10 to 12 noon. This is at the Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center at 5825 Wise Road. Much like Rejuvenating South Lansing, all of our meetings are actually held in the Sandy Allen Room at the Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center. We are fortunate enough to be inviting Bob Trezise with the Lansing Economic Area Partnership. He's the president and CEO of LEAP. We will also have one of our economic development specialists, Chris Klein, with us, as well as our Director of Economic Development and Planning Department, which is Brian McGrain. So we hope that you make a little bit of time and come in and hang out with us for, if it's 5-10 minutes, that's fine. We have some people stop in, and some people certainly stay throughout the duration of the meeting. Thanks.
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, President Spatafore. A couple of announcements. This is my last opportunity before the presidential primary to remind you of some key dates and other things. Today was the last day to register by mail or at the Secretary of State's offices, but you can register to vote up through Election Day, including on Election Day. You need to come in person to the city clerk's office, and we are here on the 9th floor of City Hall or at 2500 South Washington Avenue, so you can still get registered to vote. If you want to vote early, vote from home, we do need a signed application, and really all we need for this election is your signature and your address where you live and which ballot you want. You do have to select either a Democratic candidate ballot, a Republican candidate ballot, or a ballot without a presidential primary, which would just have the local proposals. So still plenty of time to do that. If you want to come in person and pick up your ballot or register to vote, we are open 8 to 5 weekdays here at City Hall. And then at 2500 South Washington, we have some expanded hours. We are open on Wednesdays until 7 o'clock p.m. And this coming Saturday, we will be open at 2500 South Washington from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And then the following Saturday and Sunday, we will be open both days from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. So 24 hours of voting opportunities for the citizens of Lansing. We really want you to get involved. Voting ahead of time can help reduce the stress on our election workers on Election Day, and helps make sure you know what's on the ballot. If you want, you can take the ballot home and make your decisions, or you can vote it right there and turn it right in and not have to worry about a stamp or where to return it or anything like that. So some great opportunities to vote, and I encourage everyone to participate. And with that, we are to community event announcements. If anyone in the audience has a community event, we'll give you 1 minute to tell us the details of that event. All right, seeing no events. We got one event. Give you 1 minute to tell us the details of your event.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Edie. I'm here representing Fair and Equal Michigan. Not so much of an event, but we're trying to get a petition across and get signatures to squarely amend the Civil Rights Amendment to include sex, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, and gender in the Elliott Larson Equal Rights Amendment. Right now, I'll be in the back taking signatures if anyone is interested. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are now to registration for public comment on legislative matters. And legislative matters does include all the items listed on the consent agenda and resolutions for action and ordinances for introduction. And I would note, members of the public can still speak about it, but the council will not tonight be acting on the fiscal year 2020 mid-year budget amendment. And if you want to sign in, you need to jump up right now because our Annalise is going to be picking up the sign-in sheet in just a moment. So, and with that, we are to the mayor's comments.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will concur with Councilwoman Spitzley on Veronica Wilkerson-Johnson, who is also a very good friend. I've known her for many years. And I will say go blue for Veronica. I know Patricia, or Councilwoman won't say that. That's okay. Maybe she'll say it on Saturday or Wednesday. I will say tomorrow we've got our next neighborhood summit at Sexton High School at 6 p.m. So all are welcome. We do those quarterly. Thursday, March 5th, is the Homeless No More fundraiser, which will be at Kellogg, which raises money for assisting the homeless population. And I'll remind everybody, on April 1st will be Census Day. That's our Census Day kickoff at Geyer at 8 a.m., although people will be getting cards in the mail, and I hope when you get your card in the mail, you fill out the census and send it back. It's about $1,800 a person per year, so that's a good $18,000 in the next 10 years per person. So everyone needs to send back their census card. Or I say send back, everybody needs to go online and fill it out or call the number. Those are the two best ways to do it. Thank you.
Sorry? Oh, gotcha. We're stalling for the public comment sheet, so I could ask you a question. Anything else you'd like to share about that? No, here she is. All right, we're good. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, we have Mitch Rice.
Thank you, Council President and council members. Just one item to make a comment on. It's the item in 4C, setting a show cause hearing in consideration of orders to make safe or demolish the 1522 West Holmes Road. From reading the material and seeing the process, I'm glad to see that the city is moving toward that with this particular property. It appears to not have the value anymore in what to repair it. And it looks like the other good part is there's been a significant due process to let this owner possibly do something better with the property. And getting rid of anything that is to the level of this, which could be considered blight, is going to help the surrounding neighborhood. Because when we want economic and neighborhood development, it's real important to have good-looking buildings the best we can, and especially ones that are unoccupied and unused and dangerous like this one appears to be. So I'm glad we're seeing that action being taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was our final speaker for this segment. So we are, and I should have noted earlier, item 4D, the show cause hearing for 215. It says South Homer. It was supposed to be South Hosmer, but additionally, the building has fallen down, so there's no need to move forward with the process, so that will not be acted on this evening. So we are to the consent agenda.
Vice President Hussein, what's on our consent agenda this evening?
The consent agenda tonight will include 1A, which is a tribute and recognition of Divine Connection Pastor Salute, as well as item 4A, which is a confirmation of appointment for Luciana Solis as an at-large member of the Fire Board for a term to expire June 30th, 2020, as well as 4B, which is a confirmation of appointment for Kathleen Toby as a third ward member of the Fire Board for a term to expire June 30th. So with that being said, I would move the consent agenda.
All right, the motion has been made to approve the consent agenda as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we are to the Committee on Development and Planning.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first thing we have before us is the setting of a public hearing in consideration of Brownfield Plan number 79 for 700 North Washington, Michigan Realtors redevelopment project. This project, they currently own the property. They're looking to expand and make this their headquarters, move in approximately 30 employees. It comprises of the existing building right there on the corner, and also 2 additional lots. They're proposing to do a number of infrastructure updates along the roadway to make the area more walkable. The public hearing is scheduled for March 16th, at which time the applicant will be coming in and giving a full presentation before public comment. So you will have the opportunity to listen to their presentation and then ask questions during public comment. And with that, I move the resolution.
There is a motion before us to set the public hearing for March 16th. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Councilmember Spitzley.
The second thing we have before us is also setting a public hearing, which will be also on March 16th, 2020, in consideration of SLU 1-2020, Special Land Use Permit between 1220 and 1306 North Homer Street, a telecommunications tower for Metro FiberNet LLC. And this is also to put up a communications tower. This tower is only for local channels and to allow the customers of Metro FiberNet to access local channels. The special land use is for the extension of the tower to extend it, oh gosh, I don't remember the height of the tower, but again, the owner will be here on March 16th doing a presentation on the special land use permit before the public hearing, before the public has a chance to, so the public can ask questions during the public comment period, so they will have the presentation first. And with that, I move the resolution establishing the public hearing for March 16th, 2020.
Any further discussion on the motion before you? Councilmember Wood.
Councilmember Spitzley, since the board owns this, are they leasing the property from the board?
They are leasing the property, yes.
Okay.
And it's a small portion of the property. It's I'm trying to, there are pictures of it, but it is a very small footprint. The issue really is the height.
Right, I understand that. In the information that they provided, do we know what they're leasing the property, how much for?
No,
Is that something that you could ask for when they come to the public hearing?
yes.
Thank you.
Because we did, yes, we will ask.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last thing we have before us is to set a public hearing in consideration of the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act Oprah certificate for 1611 Kalamazoo Street, the Allen Neighborhood Center. This proposal, if you just let me find my notes, because I've lost them already, and it's just been 5 minutes. There it is. This proposal is for a mixed-use residential, and it's going to be a food incubator building. It's looks like it's going to have 15 one-bedroom, 10 two-bedroom, 4 studios, 29 apartments, age-friendly. They're proposing an additional 70 construction jobs, local workers, and 20 FTEs. This is also just for setting the public hearing for March 16th, 2020, at which time the Allen Neighborhood Center will make a presentation before the public, so that the public can ask questions after their presentation. And with that, I move the resolution setting the public hearing for March 16th, 2020.
The motion has been made. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion carries for a very busy 16th.
Long time.
Yes, we are to the Committee on General Services.
Council Vice President Hussein.
Sure, so we have a few claim dispositions. The first claim disposition is claim number 1753. The claimant is Tasha Williams for $265 in grass and weed fees at 2710 West Miller Road. We had Ms. Williams into General Services on the 11th of this month. With regards to the grass and weed violations, the citation date was 9/18. We had a compliance date of 9/25. We had a code officer out to, or I should say a premise officer, out to the property to recheck on September 26, 2019. And the contractor arrived and abated on October 6, 2019. So that was 19 days after the initial notice and about 10 days after the recheck date. The total bill for work was $435, of which $170 was for contractor fees and $265 was for administration fees. Ms. Williams, through the appeals process, is asking that $265 in admin fees be waived. In her initial claim, she cited the fact that she had bought the property in July. She was in the process of moving from Florida, and she said that she did not receive the notification. She did not claim that she had not actually been in violation. She didn't claim that the work hadn't been done. She just claimed that she did not get the notification. The CRC, which is the Claim Review Committee, did review, and they found that all mailings were sent appropriately to the addresses on record, and that the process and policies in place were followed with fidelity. In her appeal of the CRC decision, she then stated that she did receive notification. She was in admission of fault, but she believed because she was a new property owner in the city of Lansing that she should be given a one-time allowance, essentially a one-time mistake. We concurred with the CRC. We found that the policies and procedures were followed with fidelity, and we moved to deny the claim. So with that being said, I would move the resolution.
There's a resolution before us. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Council Vice President Hussein.
So this claim disposition deals with claim number 1731. The claimant in this case is Sarah L. Sadie for $469 in trash removal fees at 2004 West Miller Road. Again, we had Miss L. Sadie in to General Services on February 11th. The violation date was back in June of 2019. At that time, she was cited for trash, motor vehicle parts, tires, furniture, and more. The compliance date was 6/26/2019, and the recheck was completed the next day on 6/27/2019. The motor vehicle parts and the tires had been removed at that point, but unfortunately the furniture remained. Contractor abated on July 1st, which was 12 days after the initial notice and 5 days after the recheck. The $469 that is being appealed includes $265 in admin fees and $204 in contractor fees. The initial authorization was 1 hour and 3 cubic yards with 1 additional cubic yard of waste, which was the work that was, no, I'm sorry, they were actually approved for 6 cubic yards, and they actually only removed 4 cubic yards because some of the things have been removed by the claimant and her husband, ex-husband. There was also a second trash notification in the amount of $75 that was not appealed. Again, the CRC did hear this appeal, and they denied based on adherence to policy and actual work done. There was no reason for appeal that was cited on the claim form. Again, we did have Ms. Elsady in, and she said that she did put the couch outside. She admitted receiving the notices, but there was some misunderstanding between her and her ex-husband in terms of who was supposed to remove the furniture. Again, we did concur with the CRC and the housing inspector that they were duly noticed and that the work that was being billed was for work that was actually done. So with that being said, I would we moved in committee to deny the claim, and I would move the denial for $469 in trash removal fees for Sarah Elsady.
Motion has been made to deny claim number 1731. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we are to the Committee on Public Safety.
Committee on Public Safety. Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, President Spatafor. So what we have before us is a resolution to set the show cause hearing to make safe or demolish 1522 West Holmes Road. The code compliance officer red tagged the said structure on February 26, 2019. And the documents noted that the building was valued at $52,200 and the estimated cost of repairs came in at $119,000. So on 9/26/2019, the demolition board held a show cause hearing, which issued a 60-day make safe or demolish order. And with that, so there has yet been concluded by stating that they have no contact with the owner, and there's been no work or no applications for permits has been pulled as of yet. So with that, I'd move the resolution.
There is a motion before us to set a show cause hearing for Monday, March 16th at 7 p.m. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we are to the Committee on Ways and Means.
Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, President Spatafor. What we have before us is a setting of fees. We have been asked by the administration and the Parks and Recreation Department to set a fee for the use of what is titled the City Market and Plaza. The fee structure would be $200 per hour, resident or non-resident, and there would be a conditional refundable deposit of $500. This does not include the liquor license that is held by the city, and it's our understanding this is a temporary request that they are still looking at trying to come up with another use for that building. So with that, I would move setting the fees for the City Market and the City Market Plaza.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Garza.
Thank you, President Spatafor. So does this $200 fee, I'm assuming that you need to take a rider out to rent it? Is that?
Most of our parks and that where you rent space, you have to prove that you have insurance. So they will have to, that's part of the parks policy.
And does the $200, I know this might be a silly question, but does the $200 or $200 per hour, does that include like setup and breakdown as well? If you're, throwing an event there?
If you were holding an event there and you started set up at 8 o'clock, your event was at 10 o'clock, you'd be paying for that.
400 into it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You got a party you want to tell us about? Okay. Vice President Hussein.
And I apologize if I missed it with regards to, with the lead-in.
Okay.
And maybe Andy can speak to this. Can we talk a little bit about how we arrived at the $200 per hour fee?
Mayor Shore?
That was the, we want it to pay for itself. So that was the amount that Parks and Public Service and all the folks who got together thought would be the right amount to pay for itself. And I'll add one correction, that I do not believe we have a liquor license there, because it was a redevelopment license. So when the waterfront left, I believe the redevelopment license goes away. So anybody who wants to do something would have to purchase their own one-day liquor license. But my understanding is that was the fee that was recommended from our Parks Department in terms of things they would have to do to prepare or clean up, staff time, things like that.
Just a follow-up question, have we put out an official RFP for this? This
Yeah, we've
location?
got an ongoing, it's an RFI, it's a request for information. We've had an ongoing RFI for about a year, maybe a little bit longer than that. Unfortunately, we were embroiled in a lawsuit for about 90%, well, about 3/4 of that time. So really in the last 2 months or so, we're starting to hear from folks and ideas and things, but we don't have anything to share just yet. We continue to work on it.
Is an RFI a different request than an RFP?
It's not a, we didn't put an end date on it. So it was a request for information. What we did was we put out in the RFI, we put out kind of what we were looking for. You know, for me, again, it's from the beginning, it's been sustainability, something that we are not subsidizing as a city, something that pays for itself, something that activates the space. And we can get you a copy of the RFI. It's been, Brian McGrain's got it on ED&P on their website. And we've pushed several people to the RFI. You get a lot of people who say, it should be this, it should be this, it should be this. And the response is provide a proposal based on the RFI, and we'll review it. And if it meets the conditions, then we'll work on a deal. And if we get a deal, then everybody will know about it.
Any further questions? Councilmember Jackson.
Just wanted to, I'm trying to think of like what type of event would be there for $200 an hour. And was there any examples thrown out?
Sure.
I just was just trying to figure out like what would actually be at the.
Yeah, weddings, that would be a deal for weddings. My understanding is it's actually fairly cheap for weddings, parties. We've got several people who are interested. I want to say Playmakers has indicated interest to do something there. We've had several people come to us with interest, and again, no matter where they go, wherever they rent space, they're going to be spending. It seems to be comparable. I don't go out and rent space a whole lot, so I can't give you a comparison, but it seems to be comparable, because we've had several people who are interested. And again, we're hoping to not do this for too long, because we'd like to actually get a permanent use of that space. But until that happens, as the summer is coming, and we have Rotary Park, which is an active space, we want to make sure that that space is being used as people want to. But the intention permanently is not to have private parties and things, it's to have an active space that goes along with Rotary Park. So hopefully it won't be that many, but until we finalize with somebody, this is the proposal.
Further questions?
Just for clarification's sake, we did ask about the liquor license at the time. I appreciate your input. No one had indicated that it was a development license, so we have that. And because this is city property, it's not listed in those that you can get one-day liquor licenses for. So, so with that, I would move the resolution.
Resolution before us sets the fees for the city market rental. Is there, no. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we are to the order of ordinances for introduction. Councilmember Wood introduced an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to amend the Lansing Codified Ordinances by amending Chapter 294, Section 294.02D to eliminate the requirement that the city attorney shall be the legal advisor to the police and fire retirement system. The ordinance is read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee of the Whole.
Yes. It's going to the Committee of the Whole, but the public hearing will be the March 16th at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers.
Correct.
Councilmember, would you like to move?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Not a problem. These two ordinances, the first one has to deal with the police and fire retirement system. In the ordinance, there is only one change that's being made, and that talks about that the city attorney shall be the legal advisor. It's being changed to may, and that is the same in the second ordinance, once the clerk introduces that. Under PA 314, the retirement boards do have the ability to hire legal advisors as part of the retirement system and paid for out of the system. Both boards, and you should have received those letters from the board chairs, indicated that both boards are requesting these changes so they can move forward with a contract to secure legal services. So with that, I would move to set the public hearing for our next council meeting, which is March 16th, and we will be taking this up in committee of a whole before the meeting, and the goal is to pass it have the public hearing and pass it that same night. The retirement boards meet the very next day on the 17th.
There is a motion before us. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Councilmember Wood.
I need to read it in.
Oh.
Councilmember Wood introduced an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to amend the Lansing Codified Ordinances by amending Chapter 292, Section 292.09, to eliminate the requirement that the city attorney shall be the legal advisor to the Employees Retirement System Board. The ordinance is read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee of the Whole.
And reiterating what I said before, this is the the employees' retirement system. Again, this is changing one word in the ordinance from shall to may. With that, I would move setting the public hearing for the 16th and ask that the president refer both of these to committee of a whole.
Motion's been made. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now you got to read it in the record now. That's how it works.
All right, on to the next one. We have the Committee on Development and Planning introduced an ordinance of the City of Lansing, Michigan to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lansing by adding a new section 884.13 for the purposes of providing for an extension of a service charge in lieu of taxes for 98 low-income elderly dwelling units in a project known as the Porter Senior Apartments pursuant to the provisions of the State Housing Development Authority Act of 1966 as amended. The ordinance is read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Development and Planning.
Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first thing is, I understand this is not an extension of a pilot. This is a new, from what I understand, it's a new pilot. So I just want to make sure the wording is correct. It's a new pilot. It's a 40-year pilot at 5%. So I want to make sure that, the language of, I'm pretty sure that the language of the ordinance reflects that, but I just wanted to clarify that it's not an extension. They did come before us, in 2017 for an extension. The original pilot was in 1982, which 1982 is a 40-year pilot that would have expired, I think, in 2033, if my math is correct. In 2017, they came in for a 10-year extension and withdrew that for various reasons. They came in this time and they want a new pilot, a 40-year pilot at a 5%. So the Porter Senior Apartments are right downtown here. It's 98 units. And the project seeks to bring the building up to modern standards of affordable living. They're saying they're gonna originally they were gonna expend $30,000 per unit, but now they're proposing to extend $45,000 per unit. And so I move the resolution to introduce the ordinance.
Setting a public
Do I have to, do I introduce the ordinance and then set a public hearing, or do I introduce the ordinance to set the public hearing?
The ordinance was introduced by my reading, so you
Oh.
move to set the public hearing.
All right, well, then,
And also, just to clarify, the ordinance does state 5%. The extension would be at 4%. So it's a new pilot. Just the summary language isn't correct. So you're correct, but the ordinance is right.
thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
So I move to establish the public hearing for March 16th, 2020, as with the others. They will be here on March 16th to provide a presentation before public comment so that the public can hear their presentation and then provide public comment based on the information they're going to hear from the presentation. With that, I move the resolution.
Resolution set in the public hearing has been moved by Councilmember Spitzley. Any further discussion?
I need a mulligan, Mr. President.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure he knows what a mulligan is.
Now let's do-over and go.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted the council members to know that in your packet, you have some supporting information. Not only do you have the language of the ordinance, though, but you have a list of capital expenditures that have occurred at the building since 2015 to help you as you're doing your deliberations and reviewing. So I wanted to let you know you had that information. Thank you, Mr. President.
While I do know what a mulligan is in golf, I don't know what it is in Mason's rules. So I'm just going to call the roll here. All those in favor of the resolution setting the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We got that one under a birdie, so.
We are to speaker registration for public comment on city government-related matters. That's the yellow sheet in the back, so we'll be picking that up in just a couple of seconds for anyone who wants to jump up and sign in. And in the meantime, we're to reports of city officers, boards, and commissions.
Vice President Hussein, I need a motion to consider all items read and allow me to make referrals.
So moved.
Motion has been made by the Vice President. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
We have minutes of boards, commissions, and authorities.
Place on file.
The comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019.
Placed on file.
Report of boards, commissions, and authorities term expirations.
The Committee of the Whole.
Executive Order 2020-01, policy and procedure for temporary marijuana event licenses.
Committee of the Whole.
We have letters from the mayor regarding the deficit elimination plan, special assessment, capital project fund.
Committee of the Whole.
Issuance and sale of 2020 limited tax general obligation bonds for capital improvements.
Committee of the Whole.
Issuance and sale of refunding of building authority bonds and tax increment finance authority bonds.
Committee of the Whole.
Issuance and sale of limited tax general obligation refunding bonds.
Committee of the Whole.
Decertification, Alliance Drive, and a portion of Technology Boulevard.
Committee on Public Service.
Amend Chapter 240 to restructure the grant awarding process for basic human services.
The Committee of the Whole.
Sole source purchase, Public Service Department request for MSKS Inc. as the vendor for the purchase of engineering services for the two-way street conversion project for downtown Lansing.
The Committee on Ways and Means.
Sole source purchase, Public Service Department Waterworks System and Equipment as the vendor for the purchase of 5 Warminster fiberglass reinforced plastic replacement slide gates.
Committee on Ways and Means.
Communications and petitions, claim appeal for claim number 1757, Frank Jaju for $716 in trash fees at 1722 West Miller.
Committee on General Services.
Claim appeal for claim number 1761, Michael Hotwanger for $440 in trash fees at 1608 Comfort Street.
The Committee on General Services.
Excuse me. Notice from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, transfer of ownership of a 2019 SDE license to 2200 West Holmes.
The Committee on General Services.
And where to remarks by council members.
Any council members wishing to make remarks? Seeing none. Comments by the mayor? Public comment on city government-related matters.
Our first speaker is Daniel Arnold, followed by Eddie Barnes.
Hi, my name is Daniel Arnold, and I love Lansing. I appreciate the opportunities in our region for everyone. Okay, wait, I'm trying to the right speech. Oh, yep. I take it upon myself to be heavily involved in open meetings around the Tri-County area, to be enrolled in the Citizens Police Academy, and to be active in church. Throughout the week, I spend a great deal of time around drop-ins for the vulnerable communities. Many people truly care about the poor. At this time, there has been a growing fear related to the coronavirus. At public meetings, coronavirus is briefly mentioned. January 30th, 2020, health officials determined that risk was low in Michigan. According to Boston Globe, over 79,000 people have been infected worldwide. Saturday, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services said that there are 325 people in the state who are being monitored for novel coronavirus. I believe the city of Lansing should instruct vulnerable communities where this virus could easily spread of how to take precautions. Make a public health statement, put up posters. Today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1,000 points, allegedly because of the coronavirus. What can we do to address this health risk, Mayor Andy Shore?
Thank you. Next, we have Eddie Barnes, followed by Mitch Rice. Apologize if I mispronounced your name.
So, hi. My name's Dinah DeWald. Edie let me speak first because I have to go to work right after this. So, I'm Dinah. I live over on Genesee Street. I am poor. I make about $15,000 a year. I live with about 8 other people in a cooperative house so that I can pay my bills and still live here. I am talking about this because I know that there's a parking ordinance that is about to come into effect in March that would cause a huge bill to come up into my life because there's no way for me to park my car in a driveway because I live with a bunch of other people. I'm sharing space because that's the only way I can afford to live here. Everyone I know lives with friends or in duplexes because they're also poor and they can't fit their cars into a driveway. And the $145, $125, whatever it is a year to pay for a parking permit is frankly more than I can afford. It's blatantly a flat tax that mostly affects poor people. And I've read no justifications that this is needed for fire or emergency vehicles. We have plenty of room in our streets. They're big enough. What I read in the City Pulse was there was an actual person from the fire department that said there's no reason safety-wise that we need this. And personally, I think it's unacceptable to be considering giving huge wealthy organizations like the Michigan Realtors a tax break, a tax abatement, and then be putting a fee on the poorest residents here in Lansing. And so I would really ask that you consider repealing the ordinance and not having it go into effect in March. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mitch Rice, and then Edie Barnes.
Thank you again, Mayor Spatafor and council members, and, President Spatafor and Mayor Shore. Caught that? Yeah, okay. I stand corrected by myself. Part of the reason I said mayor was I was thinking about the amended chapter 240 to restructure the grant awarding process, and there was a lot about the mayor in that. I am glad to see that there's a strong review of the process as it became clear to our community that some of that oversight between the administration as well as the council was remiss, and it's good that we're looking at accountabilities because sometimes for people the lack of accountability or review just leads to misappropriations could be or misguided approaches, and this way it'll be a double and triple check. I noticed and was encouraged to see that an advisory board had key oversight and was in the review process, and there was the staff of the Human Community Services Department as well as the mayor's office. So I encourage you to really review that and then hopefully pass it with those levels of accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Edie Barnes, followed by Nikki Fan.
Chapter 40401J, no person shall park any vehicle on either side of the street between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. of any day. I'm sorry, I have a small driveway. Chapter 40409, the registered owner or operator of a motor vehicle which is illegally parked or stored in a front yard within a residential district shall upon conviction thereof be subject to penalties. I'm sorry, my economic condition offends you. Chapter 40413C10, no more than one annual permit may be granted per residential address at any given time. I'm sorry my landlord doesn't offer enough space. But most of all, I'm sorry I'm not a model resident, that I haven't amassed enough wealth to be ignorant of these laws, that I haven't amassed enough wealth to be ambivalent if I've ignored them. But laws like these weren't intended for the model resident. They were intended for me, for us. Because we're not model residents, because we are an inconvenience for the model residents, because we have to break these laws to maintain our livelihood, because we lie awake at night wondering if the boogeyman will come and take 2 hours' wages for having no other options available. And what option are we given? A fine, an affordable fine. Sure, $2.50 a week means we eat rice instead of spaghetti each night. $10 a month means we skip 1 box of diapers, and you know, those are replaceable, I'm sure. $125 a year means our savings gets a little bit lighter. And to be so considerate as to offer just a single permit to each household shows understanding of the living conditions many of us experience. And the money goes to a good cause, I'm assured. Yes, implementing a fine against people without driveways to create an enforcement agency to punish people for not having driveways, like we're some sort of sick snake eating its own tail. All the while, the model resident will contribute nothing, will face no punishment, will continue amassing wealth because they've already amassed so much. There was an expression, I'm forgetting it, it's about poverty being expensive, but I'm sure it's irrelevant to what I'm talking about now. So let me offer my last apologies. I'm sorry, I'm poor. I'm sorry I must cohabitate to make ends meet. I'm sorry that I share 1 parking space among all of us. But most of all, I'm sorry I live in a city where I have to apologize for this.
Thank you. Next is Nikki Phan, followed by Evelyn Conklin.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name's Nikki Phan. I live right downtown on Genesee Street. I'm also here to talk about the new parking ordinance. I'm not going to repeat what's already been said, but I just want to reiterate the fact that this is an ordinance and a series of laws that significantly affect the poorer residents of our city. People living in larger subdivisions with 2-car garages don't have as much need to park on the street as somebody living in a single-family home with 8 independent adults who all have jobs and vehicles to get to those jobs. This is an ordinance that makes it more expensive to be poor in this city. I just ask that you all consider what the ordinances that you pass, the effect of the ordinances you pass, and the effect that it has on the poor residents versus all the other residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Evelyn Conklin, and then Connor Meston.
Good evening, council members. I am back again to speak on the parking permit ordinance that is going into effect on March 1st. And I would just like to reiterate the fact that 1 in 3 residents that live in Lansing are going to start struggling substantially more. We just can't. We can't afford it. We can't live. We can barely live right now. Literally, kids are going to be eating ramen noodles every night, and sorry, I'm getting very emotional. This is just, we can do better. This is unnecessary. We don't need to be charging $125 for a permit. So the 1 in 3 residents, we have a study that was done in 2017, we have about 116,000 residents in the city of Lansing, which means that's roughly 31,000 people living in poverty. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people who are probably parking on the street that have a small amount of space that they can use. It's way too many. It's just way too many people. Way too many people already living in poverty to have to deal with this. We already deal with way too much to have to deal with a parking permit that we don't have money for. That when we can barely pay our own bills, put gas in our car to get to work to be able to pay our bills, we will not have the money to pay to park at our house. And I just would really advise you guys to come up with something else that I know will be better for the city, that I know you can do, because you guys are very, very capable, and I just want to see what you guys can do that will help the poorest of Lansing, because I know you guys can do it. That's really it. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and finally, is Connor Meston.
Good evening, Council. I am also here to speak on the matter of parking. As a couple others who have been up here tonight have said, there are particular housing situations, especially with the co-op house that I live in, where there are many people cohabitating in one house. And so the amount of parking space in the driveway is very limited, and physically it is impossible for us to be able to park all of our vehicles in that space and then also have enough allowable permits for our address for all the vehicles present for everybody habitating the building. So with that physical limit in place, just for our sake, this is a personal thing for me and for all of my housemates. I would just like to say that I would see it if we were constantly struggling to find parking in our neighborhoods and people had legitimate concerns about not being able to find parking in many of our outlying neighborhoods around downtown, that maybe this could be something that could be a severe issue related to parking and not just emergency services or a number of these other things that are coming up with this discussion. But I don't see that problem. There's plenty of on-street parking for everyone. And I think that as we move forward, I'd really hope to see, as it was previously mentioned, that instead of putting money or instead of instituting a system where the cost that would be put on all the residents to pay for this new system of parking with permits just ends up going into the enforcement to actually ticket all those people, that instead we do think of a more creative solution to address the public on-street parking issues that might be related to emergency services. Like in Grand Rapids, for instance, there is a system where there is on-street parking signs. Yes, it would be an expense to set up all these signs and institute the system, but it might be worth doing if we're concerned about road plowing in the winter, where there are cars that can be where there's signs that say that on different even and odd numbered dates, cars are allowed to park on one side of the street or the other. And this is a system that I believe works well for the city of Grand Rapids and something that we could institute as well between the months of November and April. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our final speaker.
There being no further business for Lansing City Council at 7:59, we are adjourned.